Grace and peace, everybody. Good morning. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the titles, you know what we're about to do. As a dad who's about to whisk his firstborn off to college and working through the whole college process, thankfully, we live in Georgia, and here in Georgia, we have a very robust educational system as it relates to college grants and loans, as well as ways and scholarships and ways for students to go to college without having to take on a lot of debt. I think that's great. I'm glad that this state does that and prioritizes Georgia residents and gives them some type of advantage or some kind of incentive, rather, to go to school and do something different. And that works across the board. So to see this and watch what we're about to watch right here is kind of disheartening. Because, like, man, at what point are we as the American citizens going to stop electing leaders who don't prioritize American citizens? And let me bring this in and let's talk about it. Let's go.
We are tracking a developing story this morning. The U.S. Department of Justice now suing Minnesota over state laws that offer some undocumented immigrants access to lower in-state college tuition.
So the government is also challenging a new state program that offers some students free tuition. Matt Blanger joined us live in the newsroom to break down the details of this lawsuit. Matt.
Chris and Megan, good morning once again. The federal government arguing here that these Minnesota laws unconstitutionally discriminate against other U.S. citizens from other states who aren't given the same benefits. Most recently, state lawmakers in Minnesota passed the North Star Promise program. This launched in the fall of last year, and it provides state funding to cover any unpaid tuition or college fees for students from families making less than $80,000 a year. The amount of money students get is based on whatever costs are not already covered by other grants and scholarships. In 2013, so looking back a little farther, state lawmakers approved the Minnesota DREAM Act, allowing some undocumented Minnesotans to qualify for reduced in-state tuition rates and other state financial aid. Governor Tim Walz and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison are named in this lawsuit challenging these Minnesota laws. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said about this lawsuit in a statement, no state can be allowed to treat Americans like second-class citizens in their own country by offering financial benefits to illegal aliens. The Department of Justice just won on this exact issue in Texas, and we look forward to taking this fight to Minnesota in order to protect the rights of American citizens first. End quote. President Donald Trump has made immigration a top issue since returning to the White House. And in the past few months, several students, as we've reported, at Minnesota colleges and universities have been detained by immigration officials or have had their visas revoked. The Trump administration has also launched a similar legal challenge in Kentucky. The governor's office in Minnesota and the Minnesota Attorney General's office both say they are reviewing this new lawsuit. Megan, we'll keep you updated.
Matt, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Some in the medical
So let's look
world
at
are
this.
concerned tonight about recommendations.
So let's look at this. DOJ sues Minnesota over college tuition benefits for undocumented immigrants, and kind of just review this very quickly. And then got another quick segment to look at. The United States Department of Justice is suing them, which offers undocumented immigrants access to lower in-state college tuition. If you have worried about in-state before, you know that in-state is great. And the fact that they are prioritizing non-residents is crazy work. Remember, the federal government are arguing these state laws unconstitutionally discriminate against other U.S. citizens and from other states who aren't given the same benefits. There we go. I agree. Most recently, the state lawmakers passed the North Star Promise program, which launched just last fall, and it provides the state funding to cover any unpaid tuition college fees for students making less than 80. So, of course, that would definitely benefit somebody who's here illegally or somebody who's here undocumented. And finish up, the amount of money a student receives is based on whether costs aren't already covered by other grants and scholarships. Okay. So we looked at that. Let's look at the other segment related to this. Let's pull that up.
The Department of Justice is suing to stop a Minnesota law giving free tuition to students who are here illegally because they say it's discrimination against U.S. citizens. KARE 11's chief political reporter Danny Spiewak is here to break down the case. Danny?
Julie, the lawsuit accuses the state of Minnesota of violating federal law by offering in-state or free tuition rates to undocumented students. But But Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and other Democrats in the state have vowed to fight back. In 2013, the state legislature passed the Minnesota DREAM Act, extending financial aid and in-state tuition rates to undocumented students.
Growing up undocumented, I had to live with the consequences of being denied access to affordable education.
Carolina Ortiz with the immigration advocacy group COPAL Minnesota says she couldn't have gone to college if not for the DREAM Act.
Prior to that, either I was fully denied because of my status, or they said, yes, we'll accept you, but you have to pay out-of-state tuition and you have to pay for everything up front. And that to me was just a door closed.
In 2023, Minnesota's DFL-controlled legislature.
I can't believe, at what point do we ever just say, hey, can I go to Italy and do this? Can I be undocumented in Ireland? Can I be undocumented in the People's Republic of the Congo? Can I be undocumented in anywhere and do the same thing? Demand in-state tuition, demand services and benefits that their citizens pay for. I would love to see, where else can you do this? Where else can you do this? For her to say the door was closed, ma'am, the door isn't closed. Go back to your country. You're not going to be able to go to college here. I'm sorry. Why do we do that? Why do we bend over backwards to provide services to people that have contributed nothing to the system at all? And if you contributed, then go ahead and make it your first priority, your day one activity to be legal. Then you can take advantage of all the system. I don't want to say take advantage, but you got my point. Like, this is craziness.
Legislature passed an additional law that makes undocumented students eligible for free tuition in the North Star Promise program. Now, the U.S. Department of Justice under President Trump has cited Minnesota's DREAM Act and North Star program in a 36-page lawsuit, arguing that the magnitude of this discrimination against U.S. citizens is substantial. At the state capitol this year, Minnesota Republicans made similar arguments about public benefits for undocumented immigrants, led by Representative Isaac Schultz in the House.
Minnesotans today are seeing their tax dollars go to folks who are here illegally.
Although Republicans were successful in rolling back health care benefits for undocumented adults, their proposals around college tuition were unsuccessful.
We worked so hard to get this passed.
DFL Senator Sandy Pappas sponsored the 2013 DREAM Act that the Trump administration is suing over.
I'm just sad that the federal government is trying to do this, and I know that the Attorney General is going to fight back really hard.
Attorney General Keith Ellison says he will defend the state's ability to provide tuition breaks to undocumented students. According to the Office of Higher Education in Minnesota, 139 DREAM Act recipients received North Star scholarship funding this past school year. Back to you.
So this is madness. How do you, with your full chest, with a straight face, say that 139 undocumented illegal immigrants should get prioritized over 100 plus citizens? Are you trying to tell me that there are no citizens, no students in Minnesota that could have used that benefit? That is the craziest work I can imagine. And the fact that y'all are okay with it and Keith Ellison is going to fight for it, sir, on what? I think at some point somebody's going to have to ask why. Now, Minnesota's not the only one. Texas has had this law in place for some time. Let's bring this in and talk about it as well.
The Justice Department and the state of Texas reached a settlement for the state to stop providing in-state tuition for undocumented students. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager.
I'm Heather Hayes. The program has been a state law since 2001. At the time, it received bipartisan support in the Republican-controlled state legislature. Fox 4's Stephen Dial live to explain who's impacted and why it's changing now.
The Texas DREAM Act has been on the books for nearly 25 years. What's changed has been a greater focus on repealing laws that provide support for undocumented students. Since 2001, the Texas DREAM Act has provided access to in-state tuition for thousands of undocumented migrant students at Texas colleges and universities. But in another sign of the changing political climate towards illegal immigrants, the Justice Department and the Texas Attorney General are trying to shut the program down. Hours after the DOJ sued Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton sided with the Trump administration, calling the law discriminatory and un-American. The Texas DREAM Act was signed into law by Republican Governor Rick Perry with bipartisan support in the state legislature.
Only 3 Republican senators voted against this, and only 2 Republican House members voted against this. There is a Republican consensus in favor of the Texas DREAM Act.
Well before DACA provided federal protections to undocumented children, Texas was the first state to create this type of tuition program for them. Now, more than a dozen states do the same thing.
How many undocumented students are in Texas public universities or Texas universities?
A little bit less than 20,000 undocumented students, how we identify them, how they're identified as affidavit students.
Those affidavits.
It just seems amazing to me that 20,000 students are not getting this benefit. Am I to believe that there's not 20,000 students in Texas that could have benefited from that? I have a nephew that lives in Texas. He's going to school this year as well. Could he not have benefited from that? I mean, it just seems crazy that we're actually having this conversation. All right, let's get this done.
Affidavits are a key part of the program, according to the nonpartisan nonprofit group Every Texan. The group looked at data from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board.
They have to sign an affidavit saying that while they might be undocumented now, at their earliest possibility that's available to them within the law, they will then go and seek to become a legal permanent resident.
Under the Texas.
To me, okay, I understand that. Why are we not prioritizing that move first? Now, instead of saying, because I don't think we would say undocumented if you're saying, hey, well, they're in the process. Jason has gone down, he's filled out his paperwork, he's gone through the steps, and he's waiting for an interview or he's waiting for an assessment, whatever the process is. Instead of saying, yeah, let me go ahead and get this education. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'll go get legal later on. Come on, man. To me, this makes no sense at all.
DREAM Act, students also have to live in Texas 3 years before graduating from high school. The state has not said if the changes happen immediately, impacting students starting summer courses or the fall semester. And despite multiple Republican attempts to repeal the law, those efforts never made it to a full vote in the Texas legislature.
Is this a broad enough impact to get a law reversed like this, or is it, in your opinion, just kind of catering to the base with this climate?
I think a lot will depend on the debate in the judicial system between the Trump administration's argument that Texas cannot provide benefits to undocumented immigrants, that it doesn't apply to all U.S. citizens.
And to provide some context, we were talking about in-state tuition. Undocumented students who are in the country illegally are not eligible for federal student aid, so they do not fill out a FAFSA.
Stephen Dial, thank you.
So this is interesting back and forth, especially as many of us are getting ready to get our children ready for college, or they're going back to school, whatever like that. You're filling out, paying for, writing checks and such like that. And to see this is kind of interesting, I have to admit. But I want to know what you think down in the comments below. Give me your 2 cents. Let me know. Hey, Jason, I think you're off real here, or you fully understand my misunderstanding about, or my confusion about why we prioritizing people who are not here legally over people who are. So let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for liking the video, and I appreciate that so much. I also appreciate you subscribing to the channel. It does let me know that you appreciate what we're doing over here and you find value to it. I'm looking forward to celebrating our 50,000 subscribers real soon. So until then, everybody, grace and peace.